I want to talk about Bottega Veneta. This is a long time coming. This is a long time coming. But I want to talk about Louise Trotter's debut because I thought it was really good. And over the coming days and weeks, I'm going to start revisiting a lot of those runway shows that happened over the last season, the most recent season. So, Louise Trotter, to talk about Louise Trotter, is a fashion designer that I've been a fan of for many, many years. For guys that are OGs on this channel, you guys would know that I actually made a video about Louise Trotter's work about 5 or 6 years ago on this same channel. You can find it online when she was at Lacoste. She was creative director of Lacoste. Now, for people that are watching that don't really know much about Louise Trotter is the current creative director of Bottega Veneta. She's had so many jobs in fashion. She's so overqualified at this point. She's been a buying and design director at Whistles. She's been a VP of women's wear at Gap. She's been a creative director at Jigsaw. She's been creative director at Joseph, creative director at Lacoste, which is when I found out about her work. She's been creative director at Carven, and now she is the creative director at Bottega Veneta. It was a big story at the time when she was announced as the creative director in 2024, because around that time we were having a conversation around how most of the creative directors are gay white men and there's no space for women. And so it was absolutely amazing to see how well people took to Louise Trotter's debut, me included. I really liked her debut. Someone asking, do I see the Twitch chat? I certainly do. I see all the chats. He said I'm breaking labor laws, so I'm making you do moderate. Culture doesn't have to do any moderator things. It's up to culture if, you know, moderator duties have to be done. But anyway, so let's talk about kind of where Bottega has been since Louise Trotter joined as the creative director. So the first thing I really want to talk about is the first campaign she did, because this was such a good campaign. And I think she kind of hit the ground running. And I think based on this campaign was how I knew that she was going to hit the mark when it came to Bottega Veneta. So her first campaign at Bottega Veneta was called Craft is Our Language. And it was really this celebration of 50 years of the famous intrecciato, which is, I can't even speak, I have a sore throat. Intrecciato, which is the weaving technique that is really famous to Bottega Veneta as a brand. So it was a really fun campaign where people were doing these hand gestures, and there was this idea of, you know, having hand gestures as a universal language, but also using hand gestures to signify the weaving of the intrecciato itself. It was really cool. There were a lot of film inspirations in it. There were book inspirations. It was really cool. Even the people they had in the campaign. Tyler, the creator, was a big part of the campaign. And I kind of made a video where I was drawing parallels, because if you guys know, but I obviously have been looking at Louise Trotter's work since she was at Lacoste. When Louise Trotter was at Lacoste, Golf Le Fleur and Lacoste had a collaboration. It was actually Tyler, the creator's first sort of like luxury-ish collaboration with his brand. And so he even said in an interview when he was talking about why he wanted to be in the campaign, was that he felt like Louise Trotter was the first designer that really believed in him as someone that had a brand. And so that was really wholesome to see him be in the campaign. It was also amazing to see Edward Buchanan be in the campaign. Edward Buchanan was the first ready-to-wear director at Bottega Veneta, so it was amazing to see him. And I think through him being in the campaign, a lot of people started to learn who Edward Buchanan was. A lot of people were talking about Edward Buchanan. So that was really amazing to see. It was such a good campaign. And I just knew from seeing this campaign, let me just put it on the screen for you guys so you guys can actually see the campaign itself. I just knew from the campaign that, yeah, she's just going to do really well at Bottega Veneta. She did such a good job at Lacoste. Yeah, totally agreed. Craft is Our Language campaign is amazing. All of the photographs are beautifully done. I agree with that too. Just watch through the campaign so you guys can have an idea. There's Tyler, the creator. Once again, I was talking about, the hand gestures. So when they put their hands like that, that's to signify the intrecciato. So all those different, you know, links with the hands. I really love all the hand gestures that they were doing. So yeah, that's essentially the campaign. But it was just really, really good. And it was so a true creative director in a flooded industry. Money goggles. Facts, facts, facts. Because she's building like the image of Bottega Veneta in a 360 way. And I love it when creative directors do that. It's kind of like why I really like, and I'm a fan of Eddie Slimane, right? Eddie Slimane has a very 360 way of looking at the way he designs, and everything kind of fits into the world building. This is something that I praise designers like Dries Van Noten for doing. He's really good at that. So yeah, that's something that I really appreciated from Louise Trotter, to be honest. And just to give you guys kind of like, because this was actually inspired, this campaign was inspired by this book. It's Bruno Munari's Supplemento al Disegno Italiano, which is basically like this kind of book about like Italian hand gestures, like common Italian hand gestures. And that was kind of what inspired the campaign. So she's doing her research, she's looking at different Italian references, you know, she's weaving that into the intrecciato, she's looking at the heritage of the brand. And I think a through line of Louise Trotter's Bottega Veneta has been about craft, heritage. That's all she's been talking about when it's come to her rollout with Bottega Veneta. So, skipping to her runway collection, her debut show, I thought it was really great. I thought it was very commercial, which, to be honest, I expected from Louise Trotter. I think it's kind of what she's done her whole career. And even the collections that I've really loved from her in the past, like I said, I was a big fan of her when she was at Lacoste. It was like quite commercial, but it was like really well made. The thing about someone like Louise Trotter is that Louise Trotter comes from like a buying background. So she kind of knows and thinks in the sense of like, what do women actually want to wear and buy? But she doesn't, what I really appreciate from her, she doesn't do it in a way that's very mundane or boring. Because a lot of people that create clothing that's like, I want people to wear my clothing, it's really super mundane. It's very few designers that actively talk about, you know, wanting to see people wear their clothing, but it isn't mundane. Like Yohji Yamamoto is like that. Yohji Yamamoto always says that he wants to actually see people wear his clothing, and he wants his clothing to be worn by people on the streets, but it's not mundane. And that's actually very hard to do. I also love all the different elements in this collection. There's so many elements that I could get into. Obviously the intrecciato, which is a theme that she's really focused on. We saw that in everything. We saw like the knots, the famous knotting. We saw that used as like buttons in a lot of the pieces. Here we have, once again, the intrecciato piece. There's actually, so that technique, that intrecciato technique that she used on those pieces was actually supposed to be, it's supposed to look like snakeskin in a way. It's supposed to give like a texture and a sheen of snakeskin, which was really interesting. I like all the different ways that they use the technique. There was a cape that we'll probably see later that didn't even look like intrecciato. You'd have to like zoom in to really figure out that that's kind of what it was. So that was like really cool. Here we have the clutches once again. Also, let me pause there, because talking about the clutches, there's also something to really talk about when it comes to the clutches, right? Because I'm not sure how many of you know, but this was like a big talking point around the time. You know, the fact that Lauren Hutton, like Louise Trotter wanted to reference Lauren Hutton and kind of the clutch that she's famous for wearing and kind of bring that back. And it was so wholesome to see that Lauren Hutton was actually at the show, at Louise Trotter's debut, also holding the clutch. That was so like wholesome. So once again, that's a reference. And then Louise Trotter had like the clutch in multiple different sizes. So once again, looking at the heritage of the brand, looking at the icons of the brand and seeing how she can modernize that in a way. Yeah, there were a few, because I did like most of the collection. Pieces like this were the looks that I thought, something like this, amazing. Like the silhouette is absolutely perfect. But then here, the silhouette is almost too wide or too relaxed to the point where it doesn't look as flattering as everything else that was in this collection. But like, I like the details. I like the lapels with the intrecciato. It's elegant. I like it. It's really, really nice. But yeah, just a bit too relaxed for me in terms of silhouette. Here, once again, we have this sort of snakeskin effect. We have the leather trousers. Leather, obviously, is a very key fabric when it comes to the house of Bottega Veneta. Here we have, once again, the intrecciato on the denim, intrecciato on the shoulders. You guys get the point. It was very much about craft and about the intrecciato, and that's why the campaign was like that. Something I found really fascinating though about this collection, because when we think of past creative directors at Bottega Veneta, whether that is Daniel Lee or Mathieu Blasi, when it came to fabrics, they were always about this sort of fabric manipulation. They were doing things like the optical illusions where it looks like denim, but actually it's leather. It looks like cotton. It looks like a cotton vest. Actually, it's leather. So they were doing all those kind of things. And I was wondering before the show, kind of how would Louise Trotter do this in her own way? And we got an answer. We got an answer in this collection. So the answer is she made these really interesting sweaters, and you guys will see them. I'll point them out. I think there were some that were like orange, red, different colors anyway. And they are actually made of recycled fiberglass, but they're made to look like fur and give the appearance of fur. And I even think in an interview, Louise Trotter said that they've been constructed in a way to where, you know, it has a feeling of fur, but it moves like glass. I thought that was really cool. There's kind of like a fur effect, but it's actually fiberglass. That was really, really cool. And I was like, that's actually really interesting. It's almost more interesting than what Daniel Lee and Mathieu Blasi were doing, where they were doing the sort of optical illusion thing, because so many brands do that. But like doing the recycled fiberglass thing and it actually feeling like fur and looking like fur, but also giving like the sheen of glass is insane. That was actually insane. And I really want to know what other fabric manipulation techniques she uses moving forward with her Bottega Veneta collections. Yeah, Bottega is a multi-sensory experience and she is tapping into that. I totally agree. I love the fiber skirt/shirt. Yeah, me too. So I just thought it was like a great showing. Once again, it was very commercial. A lot of intrecciato, like maybe even too much. But if you're a customer, whatever you want in intrecciato, it definitely came from here. Yeah, this is the fiberglass we're talking about, the recycled fiberglass that has fur effect recycled fiberglass. You can see some of it going. I think another big key theme in this collection, here once again, another key theme in this collection is movement. Everything was just moving so well, and like, the sheen is so interesting, but everything was moving so nicely and so well, and I really loved how everything was moving from the skirts to the capes to the gowns to the tops to the knitwear to the coats. It really, really nice. And I think it adds to like the elegance overall of the collection. Yeah, even the footwear. So they made these like clogs in this collection that were a big focus. And some of them were like plain leather, and then some of them were like intrecciato. So once again, just trying to find different accessories with the intrecciato. One thing I will say about this collection, apart from the fact I really like it, is it's going to sell like crazy. Because once again, like I said, if you want the statement piece, you can go for the fiberglass pieces, although they will definitely be unaffordable. We always talk about Bottega Veneta prices and how they're outrageous. Like I've seen Mathieu Blasi collections where the skirts go for like 25k retail. So those fiberglass pieces, they might be 25 to 30k retail, but you know, it's crazy. Yeah, I talked about this earlier. I said that you have to zoom in to see that it's woven leather. So we're going to go on Vogue Runway and like zoom in. But yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, that the cape is so fine that it almost doesn't look like it's intrecciato, like you wouldn't notice. A tassel trend psyops got me in a headlock. There's a telescoping of movement adorning the body, adding volume as we move away from increasingly boring oversized silhouettes. Yeah, 100%. Even like how precisely cut the leather jackets are. And I think, so 2 collections where the styling really stood out to me. So this collection and the Celine collection. I think that Michael Ryder's Celine and Louise Trotter's Bottega is really presenting like a very classic, classy, seamless way of dressing for people. Those were like the 2 brands this season that stood out to me in terms of like the way that the styling was. That was just like really, really good. She has a few striped button downs that also almost every piece had a woven leather version. So the footwear did, obviously the bags, all the like tailoring had versions, whether it was the actual jacket itself or the intrecciato being on the lapels. We saw it in the skirts. We saw it. So yeah, almost everything has like a version of intrecciato. And then we had these like crocodile skin effects pieces that were a big focus. I saw this crocodile effect on the bags. I saw them on jackets, like many different pieces. Even like these like oversized fur collars. I really love these. I really, really love these. And then you have the weaving once again. Oh, so the jacket is not an effect. It's croc skin. Oh, I thought, is it? Because I thought there's like, you can't use exotic leathers anymore. Like, I know Bottega still does. They actually do, to be fair, because I know that Bottega does. Like, Micah has a python skin Bottega tie, but like they don't sell it on the shop floor. They have to like they have to let you into the special room to get the python skin. So I always thought that these things, like even if Bottega makes like a croc version, it's kind of like not on the shop floor and it's not front and center. It's more like if you're a VIP client, they'll like whisper like, we do the croc version too if you want it. So that's interesting that it's actually crocodile. Like it's not an effect. I would have assumed it's an effect because of like just the conversations we have around exotic leathers and stuff. Holly says, this show is what Mathieu Blasi at Chanel tried to achieve, to be honest. Yeah, the Chanel show to me was a bit meh, which is quite a shame because it's like a really big debut, but is what it is. They definitely let people get exotic, just less popular because you got to carry around sites. Yeah, and like certain countries don't even allow you to bring in exotic leathers. Like even if you have the right documentation, they just don't allow it. So that's why, yeah, even conversations around exotic leathers like python skin, crocodile skin is always they get a bit messy. Okay, they keep exotics out of their flagships in the US. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, because it's like that's why I wouldn't expect it to be so front and center on the runway. I thought, because I know they definitely make them, but I just wouldn't expect it to be like bang on in the runway. Shout out to Louise Trotter. She's like, I'm giving you guys croc skin. But yeah, something I also love about this collection, going back to the clothes, the volume, absolutely amazing. There was only that really one piece that I highlighted where I thought like the tailoring could have been a bit better, but overall the volume, I absolutely loved it. Seeing the exaggerated shoulders on all the different pieces, the fabric manipulations, absolutely amazing. Even the fabric she's using, like the leathers, the silks, it's like actual luxury, like especially at a time when I'm always critiquing these luxury brands for like not doing interesting things, cutting corners, not having good fabrics. You know, Bottega Veneta is one of those few brands that is actually still genuinely luxurious. And I hope that Louise Trotter continues that throughout her tenure. You can't have python in the state of California, so brands will use stingray or anaconda. Interesting. Oh, you mean they keep them out? They keep exotics out in their flagship. Okay. They keep them out for display. Interesting. Yeah, in Europe, they don't really have the exotics on display in like European stores, at least places that I go to, so London and France mainly. I don't really see exotics in the Bottega stores. When's the last time I went to a Bottega store? The last time I went to a Bottega store was in Paris a few months ago. And I don't think I saw any exotics on display. So I think maybe just the laws, because I'm coming from like a European perspective, maybe the laws for these kind of things in the EU is a bit different, which is why they're a bit less on display in front and center. Check out the Bottega VIP residence that they opened last fall. It's insane. Ooh, I might have to check that out. Right above the Madison flagship. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to add that to my bucket list. Just write it down. But yeah, so anyway, I'm being sidetracked. It was an amazing showing from Louise Trotter. I just want to go through all the pieces one by one, because, you know, why not? Bottega has been too hypey for me, but this is much more my style, and I'm interested again. I was last interested in the Thomas Meyer days. Oh, that's a while back. I think Daniel Lee, so the thing about Daniel Lee, because his debut collection, I did like it. It did kind of look a bit space age. Because when I think of like Daniel Lee's debut, let me actually bring that up on the screen before I go through these Louise Trotter looks. It was very like those like really high boots that became big. The simplified versions were the ones that became like really popular and stuff, but like it was very like space agey. And it's a huge departure from Thomas Meyer, because Thomas Meyer's Bottega was a lot more classic. It was a lot more subdued in aesthetic. Even though Thomas Meyer, there was a time when Thomas Meyer was doing like really crazy silks and like crazy colors and stuff. But yeah, I think this is the Daniel Lee debut from what I remember. It just looks like it. But okay, yeah, it is. So yeah, this was the Daniel Lee debut collection. So it's like these like really puffy intrecciato heels. It's like, yeah, they're like really puffy. Yeah, this is when I was talking about space age, this is exactly what I was thinking about. This is like a very like different to what Thomas and I was doing. Like very, very different. So this is what I'm referring to when I'm like the whole space age intergalactic sort of like even these boots, right? These ones here. Like these are not the ones that like did well for Bottega, but I remember seeing these on the runway. Like these are really cool. I don't even know how many of those went into production because I've never seen anyone wear those, like that version of the boots. So yeah, people are telling me to hit the details tab. Yeah, we can scroll down and look at the details because we're just looking at the look. So this is what I'm talking about, where she has the knots here. It's kind of like where you put the button details. Of course, you have the intrecciato as like this sort of back adjuster, which most coats normally have. Footwear is always something I'm really interested in, especially because like Bottega is pushing sneakers right now. I was actually, the last time I went to a Bottega store wasn't a few months ago. It was like a few weeks ago because I was in Harrods. I was in a Bottega store in Harrods and they were like really pushing the sneakers. They're actually, I was speaking to the sales associate in Bottega in Harrods. He was saying that what they sell the most of to men is the sneakers that Louise Trotter was wearing when she did her walk. So they sell those sneakers a lot. And the Andiamo, like that's kind of what they sell the most, which is very interesting. So I was like, so clearly sneakers are like working for them. So Louise Trotter, obviously talking to the merchandisers, will probably have a deeper focus on like footwear as a category. This style of like loafer is becoming like really big. Like everyone is making that style of loafer, like the Robe, Phoebe Philo, Bottega, who else makes it? Lemaggio, Sander. Like a lot of brands are making that style of shoe. Here, once again, we have the knot on the heels. Thomas was all about the fabrics. Daniel was all about the shapes. Yeah. Is anyone crazy about Bottega Veneta footwear? I think it's very hit or miss. I think the good thing about the footwear is that there's something in there for everyone, right? Is everything for me? Not really. This is what I was talking about, like the snake skin. But yeah, it just depends, to be honest. It just depends what you like. These are really cool. You have the huge bags, the high collar, the volume. This coat is amazing. Like the silhouette of this coat is outrageous. So nice. Once again, apparently real crocodile, not a croc effect. If that's actually real crocodile skin, by the way, it's going to be so expensive, it's unreal. Because let me tell you guys about crocodile skin. I learnt this when I went to the Celine factory in Italy, because at the Celine factory, they have a section in the Celine factory that is like made to order. So the VVVIP clients of Celine, they can order like custom bags, right? So these custom bags in the Celine factory, when I was there, they would literally, some of them would cost like 500k, no joke. And it would be like crocodile skin with like diamonds encrusted inside of the 24 karat gold hardware. Like they were just doing whatever they liked in that factory because the VVIPs were just, that's what they wanted. And they were saying that like the reason why it's so hard to work with crocodile skin is because it's so delicate. Like when you make it into a bag, it scratches really easily. So you have to be really careful. Like they have to wear these special gloves when they're making it, and they have to like sew it a certain way. And then also what makes working with crocodile skin hard is that you have to align the scales, which is really, really difficult. Like the way they have to align the scales. So that, yeah, it's a bag that big is going to be so expensive. It's unreal. Like it's going to be so expensive. Again, you've got the short, the clutch that I alluded to earlier. Oh, that back detail, I really like that. Is that a zip? Oh, that's nice. Styling, once again, this is what I mean about the styling, because if they're not thinking about the styling, they're just going to zip it down, but they've zipped it halfway to show like what you can kind of do with the styling. Yeah, these are like the sort of clogs that I was talking about that came in many different iterations and different fabrics. But there was like an intrecciato version. We'll probably see it at some point going through these. What do you guys think about the amount of intrecciato? Do you guys think it was overkill or are you guys here for it? Okay, they have an Andiamo Voyager. It's all crocodile. Yeah, 200k. That seems about right because that's how much those bags normally cost. The Voyager is around that size. That grey croc bag will easily be over 100k. Yeah. That makes sense. Because those bags do cost that much. Because the Celine bags I'm talking about, they were crocodile skin, but then also with like diamonds and platinum and 24 karat gold. So if you just removed all of that fuss and just had 24 karat gold and croc, it would be about this like 100 to 200k ish. So yeah, people have money to blow. And another thing they said in the factory about crocodile skin bags, not only are they delicate in terms of like they're really prone to scratching, they're also delicate in terms of they get damaged by water really easily. So when you're handling a croc bag, that's literally why these bags are for rich people. Because it's like you can't let it scratch, you can't let water touch it because they get water damage really bad. So it's like you just have to be rich. So you take it from your house into your Mercedes Maybach S-Class, and then you just put it on the other seat in the Mercedes Maybach S-Class. Then you get chauffeured to wherever you're going, or your Rolls Royce or whatever it is, and then you hop out of it and then you go into the event where your chauffeur has an umbrella around your seat so nothing touches your croc bag, and then you go into where you're going. Usually the people buying them want them as a showpiece and might only use them once or twice in a year. Yeah, because they're so delicate. But I think, to be honest, if we're being honest also, by the time you're spending 200k on a bag, you probably have so much money that you have a bag collection. So you probably have so many bags anyway that you cycle through the bags. So it'll take you a long time to cycle through all your bags. I understood her view of the assignment. She did good and relied on the iconic weaving. Maybe just a bit too much, but it's all good. Let's see. Does it mean the crocodile bag will look all scratchy after a little usage? Well, yes, if you use it like a normal bag. But I can imagine that the people that own these kind of crocodile bags don't use it like normal bags. I'll be surprised if they did, to be honest. I mean, Bottega Veneta is LV's competitor, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they push their signature. Is Bottega an LV competitor? I wouldn't say so. Maybe in terms of the Kering stable of brands, what brand do we view as like the high quality one? Yes, that would be Bottega Veneta. And I think in terms of the LVMH brands, what brands do we view as the high quality one? I think they have quite a few. I think we view Berluti as a high quality brand. I think we view Louis Vuitton as a high quality brand, depending on what we're talking about. So if we're talking about like some of their ready to wear stuff, the quality isn't that great. If we're talking about the trunks, the quality is sensational with Louis Vuitton still, even in 2025. So I think it just depends. But I think in terms of earnings, of course, there's no competition. Like Bottega Veneta does not even make remotely close to the amount of money that Louis Vuitton makes. Here for the intrecciato. If someone complains it's too much, why even buy Bottega? Once in a while, Ayo offers us a glimpse into his tax brackets lifestyle, pretending he's only heard about it like he doesn't stream from his yacht. Guys, I'm streaming from my living room. I wish. Streaming from my yacht is crazy. Maybe one day. Definitely not anytime soon. Oh yeah, this is the cape that I was talking about, that like you have to zoom in to see the weaving techniques because it's so fine. Like, so here you can see it a lot better. So you can see it here. But like, if you don't zoom in, you don't actually notice. It just looks like a brown cape. Like a really nice brown cape. Oh, okay. In that Bottega Veneta is a heritage leather / luggage house. Okay, yeah, you're correct. Correct. In terms of, yeah, Kering has Bottega Veneta, luggage. LVMH has Louis Vuitton, which is, yeah, seen as like a luggage brand. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. I love the bandana. Isn't it very interesting? Because once again, I mentioned Michael Ryder's Celine in terms of the two brands that I love the styling the most was this collection and Michael Ryder's Celine. And Michael Ryder at Celine has been doing that same sort of like bandana, front scarf, neck scarf styling thing. And Louise Trotter has done the same thing. So it's interesting. There's even similarities in terms of the way that they are styling pieces. This is the very famous recycled fiberglass. That was really cool. I want to know how much those pieces are going to cost. I'm so curious. My guess is that the skirt is going to be 25k and the top is going to be 30k. or it might be slightly more because like inflation. But these kind of pieces, when Mathieu Blazy used to make them, they were around like skirt 25, top 30. They're around that price. But yeah, anyway, guys, that is my final verdict on Louise Trotter's Bottega Veneta. I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, that is the intrecciato version of the clogs that I was talking about. But I'm definitely a fan of what she's done so far. I love the campaigns. I think even recently she released another campaign that I thought was really cool. Let me see if I can get that on the screen. So I just think, yeah, everything she's been doing right now has been sensational, and long may it continue. Long may it continue. I want to know how much this fiberglass piece is. I think Kering's version of LV is Gucci. Yeah, if we're talking about in terms of financially, yes. Because Gucci is Kering's biggest brand financially. And then Louis Vuitton is LVMH's biggest brand financially. So yeah. Did she have the best debut this season? I think the person that had the best debut, I think it's subjective. I think it just depends on like what kind of clothing you like, what designers' work spoke to you the most. Me personally, my favorite collection was Michael Ryder's Celine, but I think she definitely had a top 5 collection this season, that's for sure. I think on most people's list, if most people in fashion, most journalists, most commentators, whatever you want to call people, if you ask them from last season, what are your top 5 collections? I think almost everyone would have Bottega Veneta as part of their top 5. So I think so. I think it was definitely one of the top collections. Kering wants Bottega to compete from a quality level with us. Yeah, because even like the price point, they've started aligning the price point with Hermes quite a lot actually. So yeah, that's very true. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.